After the brunch Mom insisted I eat, I spent the rest of the afternoon drawing and trying to forget about everything else for a while. Danny's face was so clear in my head that I soon found myself drawing him. I don't know how many pages I filled with doodles of him before the sky turned orange and the light began to fade. Girl, you gotta show us the drawings. Too many.
Nora, it's nearly time.
I set my sketchbook aside and leaned on the windowsill, peering outside. The sun was well on its way toward the horizon, but it was still pretty early. I honestly didn't know that we'd be getting many candy-seeking visitors this year, but Mom was convinced. It was probably just wishful thinking. I rolled out of bed with a quiet groan. Ugh.
Nora!
I'm coming! I had no idea why she loved Halloween so much. It's not like we threw a big party or really did anything special. Dad made punch and we had snacks while we handed out candy. It wasn't a particularly riveting experience. I glanced out the window as I went downstairs. With sunset basically here, I guess Samhain would be starting up. The day had been uneventful, but I was a little apprehensive about the evening.
You didn't find a costume to wear?
I'm just walking around the neighborhood. There's no need to dress up.
Oh, come on! To help get in the spirit of things! Can't you find something better than that to wear?
No. This outfit is perfectly fine, thank you.
You and Spencer are both buzzkills.
Sorry, Mom. I was saved from my unfortunate train of thought by the doorbell. Hey, boys. I went to answer it to find Danny and Elliot standing there smiling at me. I blinked at them in surprise. Hi! I wasn't expecting you two so early.
Well, this is about when we are supposed to get started, so we decided to stop by here first. Kinda made sense, since you're, right here.
I cannot argue with that logic, to be honest. Want to come in for a few minutes? I pulled the door open and stepped back to allow them inside, shutting the door behind them.
Nora, was that the first batch of... Oh, Danny!
She looked way too gleeful to see him in our foyer, and the smirk she was giving me made me want to strangle her. Poor Elliot's just like, I'm third wheeling.
And hello to you as well, Elliot.
Well, glad she realized he's here too.
No costumes?
Oh, I'm a vampire.
He gave her a toothy smile and pointed to his fangs, which were definitely longer than normal, but quite a bit shorter than I usually pictured a vampire having.
Vampires look like everyone else, just with bigger teeth.
Danny and I shared a look. I only just kept from having a facepalm moment. I really had no idea what to think of Elliot confessing to my mom that he was a vampire in a way that'd ensure she'd never realize he was telling her the truth. It was weird.
How cute! Now, if I remember, you said Nora would be helping you with some volunteer work. What exactly do you two do?
We have an agreement with the neighborhood association to go around and keep an eye on things this evening, just to make sure everyone stays safe. We'll really just be walking around and helping out if any kids get separated from their parents, or ensuring cars are driving slow enough, and taking care of anything else that pops up. It's still a bit early, so we'll mostly be reminding people to drive slow or making sure no one suspicious is hanging around.
You volunteered to do this?
Yeah, we've done it the past couple of years, actually.
That is so nice of you two.
Mom seemed really impressed by the idea that the two of them would volunteer their time that way. I mean, it would be really nice.
Nora, isn't that nice of them?
It is indeed rather altruistic.
Is it still going to be alright for Nora to come with us?
Oh, I think it'll be fine. Do you think Spencer will want to go too?
No! No, I don't think so. As you well know, spending time with me is not his favorite thing these days. And when I say not his favorite thing, I mean he'd probably rather have his eyeballs boiled and scooped out with a spoon.
Don't say that, honey.
You know it's true.
It's also rather disturbing.
Still true. She sighed and gave me that pained look she always did when I mentioned Spencer drama these days.
Well, you go have fun anyway.
Alright, then I'll be back this evening, before dark.
Okay, see you later, honey.
We won't keep her too late.
Don't forget your phone.
I already have it. I swiped it off the cabinet and grabbed my jacket out of the front closet as Mom retreated back to the kitchen. I heard her ordering Spencer to the front to prep for candy duty. We let ourselves out just as he stalked into the foyer. I shut the door fast before he could say anything. We hopped off the porch and started down the driveway. I turned back and saw Mom peeking out at us before she vanished back inside, grinning. Such a troublemaker. I guess she was just happy I was actually getting out of the house more often. I really hadn't done that much the last few years. Still, I was surprised she let me go so easily. And now I was walking outside the safety of the barrier Allie set up, wondering if this was such a great idea. But Danny said they'd watch out for me. I can't imagine Velos would have let me go with them if he really thought anything bad would happen. So, an agreement with the neighborhood association?
Yeah.
He rubbed the back of his neck and smiled sheepishly.
You get pretty good at coming up with excuses when you've been at this for a while. It's a decent cover-up that gets us out of answering questions about why we're walking around the neighborhood.
Is that really all we're going to do?
Pretty much. There's just one place in the woods Velos asked me to check. Otherwise, we really do just make sure neighborhood kids don't get bullied by stray drifters and the like.
It was still early, but I did see a few kids out and about, already going door to door. I honestly didn't know people even still did this. I just assumed everyone took their kids to the mall or something. Our neighborhood was just kind of old school, I guess. Danny led us to the treed path that went alongside the road. There was a partial screen of trees that shielded us from the street, and the woods on the other side. I ran my hands up my arms, shivering slightly. It was chilly, but I wasn't really cold. I couldn't stop another shiver from running through me, though. Danny glanced down at me, moving a bit closer as we walked.
Cold?
No, I just feel... tingly? I don't know how to describe it. Just sort of jittery and tingly. It's been building up for a while now.
Probably just the magic energy in the air. You're a lot more sensitive to that than we are.
I figured that was it.
I can't feel it at all. Me either, really.
I could feel it as soon as I got up, but it's gotten worse as the day went on.
Well, this is your first time really experiencing it full force, so I'm sure it's a bit of a weird feeling. You'll get used to it, I think.
Where are we going, anyway?
Down to the bridge first, just to check on it.
The bridge? Why does it need checking?
It can be kind of a trouble spot.
Nothing typically lurks under it, right?
No, I don't think we'll find anything lurking.
I knew they'd rehomed the Spriggan I'd run into, but when we reached the bridge, I still half expected to hear it anyway.
Hang on.
He hopped down from the road and slid his way down toward the creek. I shuddered and rubbed my arms again. The hairs on the back of my neck started standing up, and I thought I heard a rustling in the trees on the other side of the bridge. Danny disappeared underneath, and I nervously edged my way in that direction. Elliot was standing on the raised edge, leaning against the wooden railing.
Bridges and crossroads are kind of naturally prone to supernatural activity, so we always have to keep a close eye on this spot.
I jumped when he spoke. Ugh, I hadn't been expecting to be so much on edge tonight.
You okay?
Yeah, it's okay. So, this is kind of a trouble area then.
Yeah, on nights like tonight, this is a bit of a hot spot.
Why is that exactly? Danny had been gone for a while. I wasn't sure if I should call out to him or not.
Bridges are liminal spaces, or something like that.
Luminal... what? Danny's head popped back up as he climbed his way back up the creek.
Nothing there. No signs of any recent activity. Mozzie, you and I should stop back by before the night's over, though.
Thank goodness.
And the word you want is liminal. Oh! Yeah, liminal! That's the one.
Oh, liminal spaces. Yeah. We read about this last time too, but just to refresh our memory. Liminal... There we go. Liminal spaces are defined as empty spaces that don't exist for their own sake. Many things pass through liminal spaces, however few things linger there long. Because the barrier between reality and paranormal is thinner, this makes them far more prone to the paranormal. I was familiar with the concept of a liminal space, spaces that were sort of in between, places of transition. I had no idea they were a legitimate supernatural phenomenon, though. That makes slightly more sense, I guess.
Come on, this way.
He took my hand as he walked to the other side of the road and led the way down a little footpath into the trees. Halfway down the embankment, I lost my footing and slid down with a panicked squeak. My hands raked through the brush as I tried to catch something to stop myself. I ended up crashing into Danny. He caught me easily and put an arm around my shoulders as he helped me the rest of the way down.
You okay? Just take it a little slower.
My heart sped up a little, and I immediately decided that nothing that happened this evening was going to be good for my blood pressure. Shaken, but not stirred. That was what she said when they first met. But I'm leaning towards, I'm good now, so thank you, because he's asked her, like, are you okay? And she has been extremely sensitivo. So I think if he knows that she's, like, super on edge, he'll keep a closer eye on her. I'm good now. Thanks for breaking my fall. Elliot cleared his throat and grinned down at us.
Don't I get a hand down? Sure.
He offered Elliot a hand and grinned back.
Do you want a hug too? Pfft, not from you. If Nora wants...
Nope. My hugs have to be reserved in advance. And most of them have been spoken for these days.
Aw.
Hey, don't worry, man. It's your turn next time.
Don't worry, Nora. We'll help you find your way around.
He took my hand and pulled me closer, squeezing it slightly as he leaned down. Cute.
Remember, I did tell you it's okay to rely on me a bit more.
Exactly. That's what I was trying to do with that option. My face went hot. Our eyes met and he smiled again. For a moment, I was startled again by how beautiful and eerie his eyes could be, as Elliot looked on with a smirk on his face. I looked away, desperately trying to not be embarrassed. Especially with Elliot watching us with that teasing smirk on his face. The three of us started off into the woods together, and I had to wonder just how many times the two of them had done this. I wasn't sure how often there were nights like this a year. Samhain was only one. I knew midsummer had to be one as well. Possibly even things like the solstices. It hit me again how much I had to learn about this paranormal world. I should probably look that up so I'm prepared for the next event like this. Danny didn't let go of my hand as we walked.
Stay close. In liminal zones, you can easily step right across a gate into another realm without realizing it.
Another realm?
Like fairy, right? Well, it's not the only one, though. But its borders do expand during Samhain. Fairy isn't the only realm to look out for. There are other spirit and supernatural realms that expand or open up on nights like these.
Okay. I'll look into it. Let's see. No. Okay, it's probably this one. Other realms are basically other realm than reality. For example, fairy and the astral plane are both considered other realms. In fact, there are many other realms beside these. However, no one is really sure how many other realms actually exist.
It'll be easier for you than us since you're more in tune with those wavelengths.
That must be why my skin feels like it's got ants crawling on it. Danny gave me a worried look and squeezed my hand again.
Want me to take you home?
Not yet. I can stay out a little longer. I'm glad to actually be out doing something instead of being at home wondering what you guys are doing. Being inside didn't really help anyway. He smiled at me, looking like he was glad to hear me say that.
Okay. If you start feeling too uncomfortable, though, just let me know.
I'll be fine. It's still a while before sundown, so I can stay a bit longer. Probably. I kept hearing a strange crackling in my ears that I would think was just our feet crunching through the underbrush, only it wasn't. And every so often I felt like there was someone coming along the path behind us, but when I looked, there was never anyone there. Neither Danny nor Elliot acted like they heard anything, and I knew Danny had way better hearing than I did. So I kept telling myself I was imagining things. I was just letting the eeriness get to me, but I couldn't quite get rid of the feeling that I was being watched. The first spot we stopped at was an odd clearing with stones piled in the center like a cairn. I'd never been there before, but based on the path we took, it seemed like Danny and Elliot both knew it pretty well.
Just stay here next to Elliot. I need to check something. Don't step into the clearing, okay?
Got it. Danny let go of my hand and walked out to the center, crouching to check out something on the ground near the stones. I unconsciously moved closer to Elliot. There was a sharp crack behind us, and I turned quickly at the same time Danny stood and looked the same direction. He definitely heard that one. There was a shuffle of movement, and I saw a shadow move. Suddenly, Danny was racing past us.
There's someone following us. Elliot, stay with her.
And he was gone, already disappearing into the trees. What was that? Why was someone following us?
I don't know. It's hard to catch the scent of things in the forest. Too many smells. And, well, you're standing kind of close.
Oh, sorry. Do I smell weird? Your blood is probably sweet. You got that fae blood.
It's okay. It's just,
He rubbed the back of his neck and gave me a silly smile.
Don't be creeped out, okay? But I think you must have cut your hand or something earlier when you nearly fell. The smell of blood is pretty strong.
I figured. How can I not be creeped out by that? I actually had grazed my hand on a blackberry vine when I tried to stop myself from falling. Just a little, though. Ow. So you can smell my blood right now? I edged away slightly as a dreamy expression washed over his face. Uh-oh.
Yeah. It's interesting. It has a really unique smell. Not quite mortal. Not quite fae.
It's not, making you hungry, is it?
No! I mean, well, it doesn't have the sort of scent that makes me hungry, really. But, you know.
I definitely do not know. I didn't even want to know what he was thinking about. I'll just stand over here. Forgetting Danny's earlier warning, I moved a step just inside the clearing to put a bit of distance between me and Elliot. He snapped back to attention and reached a hand out right as I apparently walked right through a spider web.
Don't go that...
Well... And she's gone. I yelped loudly and tried to brush the web off, slapping at my hair and face just in case its resident spider decided to jump on me for revenge when I destroyed its home. I didn't pull any webs off, much less a spider. I probably looked like an idiot, shrieking and dancing around like that. When I looked back at Elliot, I expected to see him laughing at me, but he was gone. I looked around wildly. Why is it suddenly so dark? Elliot? Nothing. Elliot! Danny? I thought I heard Elliot calling me, but it sounded so far away. Why was he so far away? Dread washed over me as I tried to retrace my steps back to where I'd been standing. Elliot was still nowhere in sight. No. No, no, no! Danny had told me to stay out of the clearing, and like an idiot, I totally forgot his warning. Ugh, why did this always happen to me? If there was a worst-case scenario involving magic or magic creatures, I was somehow going to stumble into it. Every damn time. Good grief! I was practically shouting, which was probably stupid, considering I didn't even know where I was at this point. I wondered if it was one of those ghost roads or whatever. I mean, it's not a road, really. It looked like the forest, but Elliot wasn't where he should be, and there was no one else around either. And it was dark. Uh-oh. Softly glowing lights started to float through the clearing. Will-o'-the-wisps? I'd read about them. They were usually harmless, though some legends said they consumed life force or whatever. You know, just a little life force or whatever. I'm sure it's perfectly safe. Haha. Will-o'-the-wisps are usually classed as fae. There are tons of varieties of fairy lights and wisps, though. They range from evil to completely benign. Some lore suggests they could be malicious creatures that feed from life energy in a vampire-like way. It should be okay for me since I was fae, but something felt off. It was hard to explain it. Suddenly, every hair on my neck was on end, and every fiber of my being was telling me to get out of there. I looked around slowly. Nothing seemed amiss, at least nothing I could see, but still... Something's rotten in the state of Denmark. Nice. Good quote. Unfortunately, I had no idea how to get back to where I belonged. I watched the little glowing things flit around, staring clear at them as I tried to feel out a way back into... well, the real world, I guess. I still wasn't even sure what, or where, I'd stumbled into. I stopped. What was that? It sounded like a whisper. I shook my head. No, I was just imagining things. I definitely haven't heard a muffled whisper before. I rubbed at my arms. The tingling had worsened ever since walking through that spider web, though I was assuming at this point that it wasn't just a spider web. The question remained, though, where was I? Why was I so sleepy suddenly? I rubbed at my drooping eyelids, trying to stay focused. Without thinking, I set a hand on a nearby tree to steady myself. What is this? That little tickly voice at the back of my mind stirred, and I shook my head trying to clear it. Psst. There was a soft crunch of underbrush, and my head snapped up. I looked around anxiously, the feelings of sleepiness fading a bit. Did you hear that? Who are you asking? Who was I even talking to at this point? And why was I whispering?
I can see you.
I spun around at the faint whisper behind me. There was nothing there, but I caught what looked like a shadow moving in my peripheral. I turned again, but it moved when I did. My skin prickled as goosebumps rose on my arms. Oh, crap. The sudden rush of adrenaline made me hyper-aware of every sound and every bit of movement. There was definitely something hovering behind me. I could feel the faint wind of its presence lurking just out of sight. Yeah, I was wondering if it was the creepy shadow boy.
Red.
Red? Hey, how's it going? I looked again and caught sight of a familiar dark form and pale eyes. It was that drifter. Damn it, why did this always happen to me?
It wasn't red.
What? What wasn't red? Your hair. As soon as it was away from you, it probably turned white. Something passed over my head, almost like a hand stroking my hair. I jerked away with a yelp and whirled around. It still managed to stay just out of sight. I suddenly remembered it pulling out my hair. It wasn't red. When the glamour wore off, my hair turned white. Is that what it meant?
It wasn't red.
That's not my fault!
Tricked.
I felt something close around my hair and whipped my head around, stumbling back. I finally caught sight of it. A large black mass with gangly limbs and pale eyes. It loomed over me, coming closer as something that looked like a large hand stretched out toward me. Nope! I scrambled away and crashed my way through the trees. Oh boy, it's just like the override. Here we go again. At least this time I had shoes. Running through a scraggly forest was never easy, but with shoes and jeans, I at least didn't have to worry as much about the brambles. Just turning an ankle or falling on my face. It seemed like I was spending a lot of time running around forests in the dark lately.
It wasn't red.
It was still behind me, whining about my hair. And chasing me. Great. How the hell is that my problem? No one asked you to pull my damn hair out anyway! I didn't know if it was Faye or something else, but it definitely was not normal. I had no idea why I was obsessed with my hair. Then again, why did Faye ever do anything? Even Ewan had said they were compulsive weirdos. Danny! Elliot! No one answered. I thought I could hear one of them calling for me in return, but it was so far away. Like there was a thick barrier between me and them. The drifter was coming along behind me, and I wasn't sure what I should do at this point. Last time I ran through the woods like this, I nearly died. God. I don't think hiding is going to work. It's like a shadow. It's like got her scent or whatever. I don't think hiding's gonna help. But what if I fall into a crevasse? Crevasse? Last time I almost fell into a crevasse, Danny saved me. Risk it for the biscuit. Oy. That said, I wasn't about to stop running. I just tried to loop around and head back the way I came. I darted between two trees, veering around to backtrack. The drifter crashed through the underbrush in the same direction we'd been going, apparently unaware that I turned away. I was grateful it was either stupid or unobservant. But I did my best to cut down on the noise I was making, though it was an effort in futility. Running through a forest silently is basically impossible, even less so when you can barely see where you're going. I pushed aside a wide branch and ducked under it, but pulled up short just on the other side. There was a fairly deep gully in front of me. Oh boy. I didn't think it was so deep I couldn't get down the side safely, though. Or maybe I should just follow along the side. Either way, I definitely hadn't come this way, so I must have gotten off track at some point.
Did she come this way?
I whirled around at the sound of a muffled voice, but didn't see anyone.
The scent is nearby, but faint.
Who is that? I could barely hear the voices, but I could see two figures nearby, sort of shadowy and blurry. I mean, I hope it's Elliot and Danny, but I'm kind of expecting it to be one of the werewolf pairs. One was headed right for me, and I stepped backwards. The soft earth at the edge of the gully crumbled under my weight. No! I let out a short scream as I slipped sideways, reaching out for anything to stop myself from falling. My hand closed around a branch, but it snapped off. I pitched forward, my hands catching on fallen branches and tangled brambles as I went headlong through another spider web. I tried my best to curl into a ball and protect my face and head as I continued to tumble down the rest of the slope. I might have just got my girl killed. I was lucky it wasn't that deep, but I still hit the bottom hard. I laid there with the breath knocked out of me and my right wrist hurting, but otherwise fine. I tried to sit up, nursing my injured wrist as I wiped at my face to try to get the rest of the spider webby feeling off. Well, it's brighter. I looked around, trying to get my bearing. I don't know why I can't pronounce words properly. Trying to get my bearings, the first thing I noticed was how bright the forest was again. Daylight was fading, but I could see again, and the wisps were gone. Am I back?
She's over here.
I heard a familiar voice call out softly, and there were sudden heavy footfalls headed my way. I tried to drag myself to my feet, still keeping my wrists tucked close to my stomach.
Oh, there you are.
I started. Yeah, I figured. I'm like, it's gonna be one of the werewolf couples. Don't you betray me. Sean? I squinted at him through the gloom as another figure appeared behind him. Derek, of course. They weren't knights in shining armor, but they were better than that drifter, wherever it was now. They acted totally delighted to see me as I staggered toward them, casting a wary look over my shoulder. The forest behind me looked totally normal. The drifter was nowhere in sight. I crashed into Derek, and he caught me in his arms, holding me tight.
You okay?
No! Something was chasing me. I held on to him tightly because I was just so glad to see someone, anyone.
I don't see anything.
I think I lost it. What were these two even doing out in the woods anyway? I was with Elliot and Danny, but we got separated.
Yeah.
Embarrassed that I was clinging to a boy I barely knew, I tried to push away from him, but Derek held me tightly in place, like, "Now this is good." He leaned down and whispered near my ear.
You sure you shouldn't be running from us?
Suddenly afraid, I looked up at him. His eyes glinted in the fading light. Let go of me!
Sorry, Red. Can't do that.
I tried to struggle away, attempting to wrench my way out of his grasp. Help! Derek's hand clamped over my mouth, grasping my jaw tightly. I tried to bite him, but he just laughed.
Not going to work. Come on, stop fooling around. Let's get her out of here before they find us. We have to be quick about this.
Derek removed his hand long enough to shove a wadded bit of cloth in my mouth. It felt like a towel. I gagged against it as he taped it in place. I knew this was going to happen eventually. Before I knew it, he was lifting me onto his shoulder. I struggled, but strength-wise, I was no match at all. They carted me through the trees with ease, despite that I was struggling and fighting back every step of the way. Why is this happening? I couldn't even begin to wonder what they wanted with me. Unless they were just creeps. I mean, yeah, we are assuming a lot, just thinking like, it must be a paranormal reason, but they could just be creeps. Regardless, I was definitely in trouble. Elliot, follow the scent of my blood.